What if I told you there's a real-life treasure map, and if you followed it exactly, it's the perfect closing plan to 5x your commissions overnight? I know, this sounds like a fantasy, but it's what helped me close massive contracts with the biggest players, the kind that makes you a legend in your field. In this video, I'm revealing the exact formula I use to 5x my commission as an account executive, step by step. You won't just have a plan, you'll have the power to transform your sales and send your commissions through the roof. Let me tell you about a time when I was a mid-market account executive and I lost a deal because I didn't realize who held the real power. Everything was going smoothly. Meetings were great, the client seemed interested. Yeah, I was already counting my commission check. But then, at the last minute, the deal, it crumbled. It fell apart. Why? Because I wasn't connected to the right person, the decision maker, the one with the real influence. They were completely out of the loop. And at the time, I had no clue the guy I was dealing with, he was not the guy. And just like that, the treasure, it slipped right through my hands. Are you sure you're talking to the right person in your sales process? Missing one key stakeholder could cost you the entire deal. This is a classic rookie mistake. Hell, it happens to the best of us from time to time, especially when you're not checking all the boxes. You might think you're in the clear because the client, they're showing you interest. But if you haven't clearly identified and connected with all the key stakeholders, you're leaving yourself vulnerable to last-minute surprises. The type of surprise that torches your quarter-making deal and makes you look like a dummy in front of your VP. Don't do that. Think of your sales process like a treasure. If you don't clearly identify the key stakeholders and bring them to the table, it's like searching for treasure without a map. You're bound to get lost. Do this with every deal. It's not just about convincing your primary contact. You need to identify and engage with all key stakeholders, the business sponsor, the technical sponsor, the executive sponsor, and the final signer. These are the people that will get you to the ultimate decision. If you don't map out who these stakeholders are from day one, you're basically gambling with your success. And as the saying goes, the devil, it's in the details. And as an account executive, those details, those details are the stakeholders who hold the keys for you to lock up your deal. So here's what to do. Right at the beginning, identify those key players. Get their contact details, especially the actual final signer. You need that. This is crucial. And get their cell phone numbers. Yes, their cell numbers. If you're trying to get a hold of them on signing day and you don't even have their cell number, yeah man, that's bad news, especially for the deal. And your VP, they're not gonna like hearing that. So, work for this early. Understand the roles and start building those relationships to secure that contact. Think of it as the first and most crucial X on your treasure map. Without this step, your chances of closing this deal drop significantly. I mean, you'd be damn lucky to have a 30% chance of closing without this info. Missing this major step can leave you blindsided. You know, those key decision makers, the ones that you have no clue about, yeah, they can shut down the deal at the last minute, leaving you with no access to get a hold of them. You'll just be scratching your head, wondering what the hell went wrong. Now that you've uncovered the hidden treasure by identifying all the key stakeholders, let's talk about how to avoid the pitfalls that can trip up your deal in the very next step. This one time as an SMB account executive, I remember a deal that was practically in the bag. We'd already done the demos, the stakeholders were on board, and everything seemed perfect. Then, out of nowhere, the client's InfoSec team threw a wrench into the works. They had concerns we hadn't even thought about, and suddenly the deal was turning into a dumpster fire, and quick. It was a small company. Why the hell would they even have an InfoSec team? We scrambled to address the issues, but the damage was done. The deal stalled, and eventually, the client just walked. It was a hard lesson. Even when everything seems to be going well, hidden risks can pop up and derail your deal if you're not prepared. Remember that last time you had that perfect deal, the one you knew was going to close, but then some stupid, unexpected issue killed it. You felt like crap, right? This is why risk management is critical. Every deal has a hidden danger, like InfoSec reviews or legal barriers or competitive threats. If you're not prepared for these, you're setting yourself up for failure. Think of these risks, they're like traps along your treasure hunt. You might be on the right path, but if you don't see the traps coming, they can knock your ass out the game. before you even realize what's happening. If you're not managing these risks from day one, you're gambling with your deal's success. Here's how you navigate these traps. You gotta anticipate them. Have a checklist that covers all the potential risks, like InfoSec, legal, competition, and address these early. Here's a pro tip. Run through the evaluation process and what it looks like early in the deal. Even on the first call, there's gotta be no shame in your game. Here's what to say. Let them know that you often run into major surprise areas like InfoSec, legal, competitor reviews, and that they always pop up at the last minute and get in their way of successfully buying and implementing on their timeline. Emphasis on their. You don't want to waste their time. Nobody wants to deal with the 2-month evaluation process if they don't have to. So, offer early reviews of each of these areas and send them on their way with the InfoSec packet, an MSA, anything they're gonna need. Set up time to go over any questions their team might have on any of the documents. Then, work on something that you can hold them to in order to get the first drafts and reviews done. Failing to manage risk can reduce your chance of closing at all by 50%. Also, you're looking at least a 90% rate that this deal, it's not closing this deal cycle. These pitfalls, they're the silent killers of deals. Do not ignore them. Make it easy for yourself. Add it to your first call process. It'll take the pressure off of you and the prospect. And it frames it as a benefit to their timeline. Okay, now that you've avoided the traps, it's time to chart a clear course towards the finish line. Let's talk about setting up a timeline, demonstrating ROI, and keeping your client locked in. You ever have one of those deals where everything seemed to be going according to plan until it wasn't? I had a few of these as an account executive, and I know exactly where I went wrong. We hadn't set a clear timeline during one of these large, high-stake deals, and the project, it started dragging. Deadlines were missed, priorities shifted, and before we knew it, the client, their interest just slipped away. Meetings started to get missed, and then we lost the connections. Without a clear timeline, the deal lost momentum, and eventually, the shit slipped away. It was a tough reminder that even the best deals can fall apart if you don't keep the process moving forward. And it's not just about moving forward. You have to demonstrate value all along the way. A timeline is like the compass on your treasure map. It keeps you and your prospect focused on the path ahead. Without it, you're just wandering aimlessly. And if your prospect doesn't see a clear ROI at the end of the journey, they're definitely gonna decide the treasure is not worth the effort. A great product or service only gets you half of the way there. You need to show your client the value and when they're going to get it. So, do you have a clear timeline and ROI, or are you just hoping everything will magically fall into place? Come on, don't be lazy. Work backwards from the prospect's go-live date. Set clear milestones, track the progress, and consistently communicate the ROI. If you're operating like this every step of the way, they're much more likely to stay committed to the deal. And side note, don't even try to commit this to your manager, not without a timeline, unless you want to look stupid when this pushes for the 3rd time. Without a clear timeline and demonstrated ROI, your deal success rate can drop by 40%. The lack of direction can cause the deal and the momentum to eventually fall apart. With a clear course set, it's time to make sure you got the final key, executive engagement. Once this is in place, you can get to finally unlock the full potential of your deal. I once had an account executive work on a deal where everything was in place except the executive buy-in. We had all the lower level approvals, the technical team was on board, the pricing was just right. But when it came to get the final signature, the execs, they weren't sold. At least that's what they told us. And guess what? They weren't even involved in the process. They didn't see the value, and they shelved the deal. All that work, all that effort was wasted because we hadn't engaged on the executives early on. It was a shitty mistake, and it taught us the importance of getting the right people on board from the beginning. Are you sure the executives are on board with your deal? Or are you risking a last-minute shutdown of the deal? Here's the hard truth. If you don't get the executives on board, your deal, it's dead in the water. Executives have the power to fast-track your deal or kill it. They need to see the strategic value in what you're offering, and they need to feel like they're part of the process. Think of the executives as the final key to unlock that treasure chest. Without their buy-in, you might be standing right in front of the treasure, but you'll never get your hands on it. So what do? Engage executive from day one. What if you only have the contact with the department head, the one that's evaluating the product, that's okay. Build it into the expectations early that you've done this before. And you know that deals, they don't close when you expect them to, at least 95% of the time, if you don't have an executive stakeholder as part of the process. That means more back and forth in dealing with the exhausting sales process. Your point of contact, they just need a solution. They just need their problem solved. In fact, you can even build this commitment that your team has a policy that they don't move forward on in-depth technical demos, not without an executive sponsor present. Tell them, this is to manage expectations on both sides, and also not to waste your time with weeks of emails and back and forths through this evaluation, just for it to crumble because the executive, well, they weren't informed enough, or even worse, they felt they weren't included into the process. Cool, this worked, and they followed through. And now you have a key stakeholder present. Keep them in the loop, show them how your solution aligns with their exact strategic goals, and make them feel like they're part of the journey. This approach can take your deal from a possibility to a priority, boosting your chances of success dramatically. If you skip executive engagement, your deal is at risk of falling apart in the final stage, dropping your chances of closing by 70%. With executive buy-in secured, the final step to navigating the procurement process to bring the deal home, let's show you how to lock that in. Imagine a deal where you did everything right. Identify the stakeholders, manage the risk, kept the timelines tight, and you had all the execs on. The deal, it was as good as closed. But actually, it turned out there were so many steps in the procurement process you had zero clue about. And they popped up. And by the time you figured out how to solve everything, the last day of the quarter, it came and it went. The deal cooled off. You lost valuable time and momentum. And eventually, the deal fell through. Yeah, I know. I've been there. It was a harsh reminder that even when everything else is right and perfect, the procurement process can still trip you up, especially if you're not prepared for it. Ever thought you had a big deal in the bag only for it to get tangled up in the procurement process? Yeah, that procurement process. It's one of the most overlooked parts of closing a deal, but it's wild because it's one of, if not the main reason deals, they don't close on time or at all. If you don't understand every step of the process, who the final signers are, what the requirements are, and how long each step is going to take, you're at serious risk of losing that deal in the last minute. Think of the procurement process as the final leg of finding your treasure. You've made it this far, and now you just need to secure the treasure. But if you don't know the path, you can get lost in the maze. Here's the solution. Map out the procurement process like you would a treasure route. Know every step, every signer, every requirement. Keep communication open and don't let any surprises derail you. By mastering this process, you can take your success rate from a C to an A. And that commission check, you can secure that. Failing to navigate the procurement process can cut your chances in half. This final step is crucial for ensuring that all of your hard work pays off. Now that you've got the full map and you know the steps to avoid all the pitfalls, you're almost ready to close the deal like a pro. But there's one more crucial piece you need to master it and bring it all together. If you really want to 5 extra commissions and become a legend in your field, you need to learn the exact strategy I used to close $650K in just 1 year as an account executive. Click on the next video to get the final details and step-by-step breakdown of how to turn your sales game into the next level. Don't miss out. These secrets, they can change everything for you.